John here from Great Lakes Country, and today we're making the most delicious, seasoned, breaded, crispy rabbit tenderloins. Call them rabbit strips, call them rabbit tenders. If you feel like you must, I guess call them rabbit nuggets. Though food in the nugget form always sort of cheapens it in my mind. It's not really a cut of meat that you've breaded and fried. It's usually some kind of churned up, re-amalgamated lump of something that's then breaded and fried, like a McDonald's chicken nugget. But what we're talking about here today is taking the whole tenderloin, sometimes also called the backstrap, of a couple of wild rabbits, seasoning them, breading them, and frying them to make the most satisfying and tasty wild game meal. And what good would that be if we didn't also have some delicious homemade dipping sauces to go with it? So we're gonna get into all of that. All comes together pretty quickly, so let's dive right in and take a look at the rabbits we're gonna be using for this. Now for our rabbit tenders or rabbit strips or whatever you wanna call them, we're gonna be using 3 wild rabbits, which are right here. And I'll mention that I've already removed the thighs off of these rabbits because I actually used them in a different recipe recently. Be sure to check that out if you wanna see the most amazing wild rabbit cacciatore. Link in the video description below. As for these guys right here, we need to cut out the tenders, which will become our fried rabbit strips. And it's sometimes called the saddle meat. I've even heard them called the back straps, although that use has always been questionable to me. But basically, it's the meat located on the midsection of the rabbit. Generally, with a rabbit, you've got your thighs, you've got some front arm and shoulder meat, and then you got this saddle meat. So to slice it out, I'll start by just scoring down on either side of the spine here. I guess in this regard, it's not that different from removing the back straps from a deer. And then, like a lot of butchery, we're just kind of following that meat around the bone, in this case some spine and rib cage, and just trying to separate meat from anything that isn't meat. And just take your time, work that blade around. Once you kind of get all the way through it, find where it seems to naturally end and slice on through. And that's our little bunny rabbit backstrap. I'll just do the same on the other side of that spine. And there we have it. I'll be removing the front shoulders and legs from this thing for yet another recipe, but I'll set this aside for now. As for our little back straps, our little rabbit tenders, I am gonna go ahead and slice off this silver skin. And there's a couple ways you can go about this, but sometimes it's just about a little bit of patience and a sharp knife. But for something like this, you can almost do it like a fish fillet, where you lay it skin side down, get just the beginnings going here with your knife flat against the board, and just sort of use that board as a guide to slice all the way down and do your best to get that skin off of there. If there's a little bit still on there, that's okay. I still got this little light layer here that's on there, and I'm not too worried about that. Rabbit skin is okay. It's not nearly as yucky as venison skin, and these are getting breaded and deep fried, so I'm not really worried about any of that there. But anything dangly, anything extra sort of slimy or weird looking, you can go ahead and trim that off. Then I'll just do the same with the other, and we're looking pretty good there. So I'll get the saddle meat sliced out of these other 2 rabbits, trim up the silver skin, and we'll be ready to move on with these rabbit tenders. Now, before we get into any of the breading and frying, we have to do a soaking step. So I'll lay out all my little rabbit tenderloins into a shallow little dish thing here, and we're gonna cover them with some buttermilk. Letting these tenders soak in buttermilk is gonna help a lot in the tenderization of them. And that's important with rabbit, particularly wild rabbit, because it tends to be a bit of a tough meat unless you do something like, well, in this case, soaking them in buttermilk. As for how long to soak them, well, anywhere between, say, 5 and 12 hours is gonna be good. I'm actually doing this right here the night before that I plan on breading and frying these. The way that the timing is gonna work out for when I want to do the breading and frying of these strips is gonna be probably right there in the 11 or 12 hour range. So I'll throw a cover on this little container, stick the whole thing in the fridge, and we're gonna pick this up in a few hours. But since that fried rabbit's gonna come together pretty quickly from this point, we might as well knock out our dipping sauces first. And we're doing a variety today. I'm gonna make 3 pretty simple but delicious sauces, starting with some spicy ranch. And for that, we need about 4 tablespoons of some mayonnaise and about the same amount of sour cream. And I'm not gonna go through all the quantities of every single thing that I'm putting in here right now, but as always, all of the quantities and exact measurements for everything will be in the recipe in the video description below. Next, some lemon juice, hot sauce, any kind you like, and a few dry seasonings. Onion powder, garlic powder, dry dill weed, a little black pepper, and some salt. Get that all thoroughly mixed together until it's completely homogeneous. And there's our spicy ranch. The next 2 are actually much simpler because dip number 2 is a honey mustard. So we're starting out with about 4 tablespoons of some good Dijon mustard, about the same amount of some of that mayonnaise. And yes, all of these dips are gonna be using mayonnaise today because, well, those are the most delicious kind. And we can't have a honey mustard without some honey, so we'll add about a tablespoon of honey. Get that all mixed up. And our honey Dijon sauce is finished. Last up, we're doing a creamy barbecue dip. And this one too only has 3 ingredients. We'll start with about 4 tablespoons of barbecue sauce. Use whatever kind you like. This right here happens to be some Sweet Baby Ray's. And to that, we're adding, you guessed it once again, some mayonnaise. About 4 tablespoons, give or take. And lastly, about a teaspoon of some smoked paprika. And this is actually some of that smoked paprika that I made from scratch in a previous video. Stir it all together. And that's our creamy barbecue dipping sauce. Now our sauces are ready and we can finally make these deep fried, breaded, amazing crispy rabbit tenders. Now I'm getting my outdoor camp chef stove fired up so we can start heating up our cooking oil. So I've got a pretty small Dutch oven here, which is gonna be the perfect frying vessel, and I'll fill it, I don't know, about a third or half full with some vegetable oil. Use any kind of high smoke point oil you like, vegetable, canola, whatever. We'll let that start heating up over high heat until it's reached 350 degrees, which gives us just the right amount of time to put together our dry dredge and get these tenders breaded up. And to make this dry dredge is very simple. We're gonna start with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I'll add half a cup of cornmeal. This is just gonna contribute beautifully to that crispy crunch we're looking for. Then some dry seasonings: salt, black pepper, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, cayenne pepper. Get that all mixed together until completely incorporated, and our dry dredge is ready. As for breading these tenders, it doesn't get a lot simpler than this. I'll just pull out a tender, let any excess buttermilk drip off of it, roll it around in that dredge until it's completely coated, every side, every surface. I don't want any bare spots. And this is a very simple breading because I'm not doing a double breading, which is great on certain things like a big old chicken strip or something like that, a chicken breast for a sandwich. But these are pretty small, thin little tenders, so I don't think they need to absolutely double their weight in breading. But you certainly could do that. Add an extra step. Go from the buttermilk to the dry dredge, then go into some beaten egg and back into the dried dredge once more. For me, I think this is the perfect amount of breading for a little rabbit tenderloin of this size, so that's how I like to do it, and it's gonna be delicious. And now our rabbit tenderloins are breaded and ready to go, so as soon as that oil reaches 350 degrees, these are going in. I'll carefully drop each one into that hot oil, and there's not that many of them here, so I can probably do most of them all at once, but you never wanna overcrowd your oil too much, risk things sticking together, risk bringing your oil temperature down too much from putting in those cold pieces of meat. So I guess I could play it on the safe side and just do them in 2 smaller batches. But it's not gonna take long. These are gonna fry really quick. What we're looking for is a beautiful golden brown exterior, and I'll go ahead and measure one of them with my meat thermometer just to make sure that the internal temperature of the thickest strip has reached at least 165 degrees. And as they come out, I'll lay them out on a wire rack just to cool a little bit. But while they're still glistening and piping hot, I will sprinkle on just a little bit of fresh chopped parsley because, well, a little bit of parsley classes up any dish and makes for some extra pretty YouTube thumbnail photos. And our beautiful breaded fried wild rabbit tenderloins are finished and we're ready to dig in. But this wouldn't be a deep fried YouTube video if I didn't do the knife scrape test. Because apparently you can't tell how crispy something is unless you hear the blade of a knife scrape across it. Whatever, I'm happy to abide. And there we have it, our beautiful fried rabbit tenders, our 3 homemade dipping sauces, thumbnail photos taken, the cows have been milked, the chickens have been fed. Now there's absolutely nothing left to do but dig in and have one of these. That's the one I've had my eye on this whole time. I think I gotta start with the spicy ranch. Absolutely delicious. That super crispy breading that's seasoned just perfectly. I'm telling you, don't skip the cornmeal step when you're making that flour dredge. Soaking that meat in the buttermilk for a few hours really helps with the tenderization. Fry it to golden brown perfection, and of course, it's gonna be amazing. Rabbit does taste a little bit like chicken, surely closer in taste to chicken than any of the other meats that we commonly eat. But if you're into rabbit hunting or raising rabbits for meat, of course, this is a great option for meals to make with that rabbit. Anyway, if you'd like to see the full written out recipe for my breaded and fried rabbit tenders, as well as these different simple dipping sauces, I'll have a link to them in the video description below. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future wild game cooking videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm John, and this is Great Lakes Country.